On this episode, we hear from our friend Phra Pandit to learn more about the ins, outs, ups, and downs of meditation.
So if you're a noob on this fascinating topic, but want to learn more from an expert, you'll dig this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Bangkok in 2001 on a retreat, only to end up staying and have my hair retreat instead.
Well, it's either one retreat or another retreat.
That's right. Tom's going.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract almost 23 years ago, fell in love with saying something in Thai, only to get the response, "What?" And then repeating exactly the same thing in exactly the same way and being totally understood. So I never left.
I've had that happen. Do you think it's because a lot of people, like when you lean into a taxi or something, they assume you're going to speak English first, so they're gearing their ears for English?
I'm guessing that's what must be going on. But to me, it's a type of merit badge, because back in the day, if I spoke Thai and they didn't understand me, I immediately changed my pronunciation, which I learned over time that just made things worse. So
right.
My advice to people out there, if you say something in Thai and a Thai person doesn't understand it, just repeat it exactly the same way. Because like Greg pointed out, they might just not have been ready for Thai to come out of a foreigner's mouth.
I used to do the same thing, but then it sounds like you're singing. Like I would say, Charan Grung, and they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, Charan Grung, Charan Grung, Charan Grung.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. No, well, if they don't understand you after 2 attempts, then you got to start singing. You got to just start hitting the tone.
That's right.
You got to spin, what's the right word? You got to spin the wheel. You got to spin the tone wheel and just go for it.
The tone wheel.
All right, we want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get every episode a day early, behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, a heads up to send questions to upcoming guests, and access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners around the world. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. On this week's bonus show, we chatted about the recent deaths of online influencers in Pattaya and what, if anything, that says about the place, our adventure exploring Bangkok in the brand new Yellow Line, and some updates on the Thai political situation, which is still going through some growing pains, to say the least. To learn how to become a patron, click the support button at the top of our website.
Totes my goats. And as always, if you have a comment, a show idea, or just want to say hi, head to bangkokpodcast.com and click the little microphone button on the bottom right to leave us a voicemail that we will play on the show. On this episode, we welcome back our friend Phra Pandit, who has been a monk in Thailand for over 2 decades. I'm not sure the exact number. Maybe he can update us when he comes on the show. Now, as we all know, monks are quite good at meditation. It's sort of their thing. Now, Ed, I know you've done a bit of that, but I also know there's a lot of people out there like me, total noobs, who have not done it for various reasons. So we thought it might be nice to hear from an expert about meditation, what it is not, how it works, how it does not work, why it's beneficial, and how it's moved from a fringe religious practice several decades ago to a mainstream health and wellness strategy today. So here is our friend Phra Pandit talking with Ed about meditation.
So I'm here with Phra Pandit, a longtime friend of the Bangkok Podcast and a frequent guest, more or less. He's our resident expert on all things Buddhism and religion, and also just maybe the relationship between Buddhism and Thai society. So, Ajahn, thank you for coming back on the show.
Hey.
I think this might be the first interview I've done directly one-on-one with you, but I did meet you many years ago. We were just chatting before the show that Phra Pandit actually was nice enough to come to my philosophy and religion class at my university and do an intro to meditation. But I painfully discovered it was 11 years ago.
Yeah, I still remember that quite clearly.
Yeah, it was. I Time just goes by too fast. I would have guessed it was more like 5 or 6 years ago. But the students actually really appreciated it. And I was a little bit surprised at how much they liked it, because I just assumed in school they got an overdose of monks talking about meditation, but I guess not.
Yeah, and also Thai monks can be a little indecipherable at times, or they can be a little hard to follow, or Thai students are a bit grengjai, so sometimes they find it easier with me.
Well, today we just decided to do an episode as kind of an introduction to meditation or Buddhist meditation. I discovered that you and Greg hadn't done a show particularly on that topic. We are going to talk about some Bangkok-related things and Thai-related things, but we're going to really start out with more of just a basic general introduction to meditation for newbies, people who've never tried it or don't really know much about it. So I'm just going to start with some basic questions, and we'll go from there.
Sure.
So Ajahn, everyone knows that meditation involves like sitting down and maybe focusing on your breath, something like that. But how is meditation different from maybe prayer? So it can kind of look like prayer. And it also might look like someone is just relaxing or chilling out. So how is Buddhist meditation different from that?
So it really depends on the meditation system and who is teaching it, because the word meditation can really mean a lot of things. In Christian terms, we would probably use the word contemplation. In terms of modern meditation, there are some basic systems or basic exercises that one can do. And I think it is important to stress the difference between Buddhism and the attainment of enlightenment, which is what Buddhism is about, and meditation techniques. Usually people are very caught up on the actual technique that they get from their teacher, and they will pound out a technique rather than actually moving into the deep, mystical, if you like, union with God as it was described in Christian texts. So the technique is something that is a method that you apply and will involve placing your attention onto a particular meditation object, such as breathing or physical feelings or a mantra or a visualization, and holding the mind there on that object rather than having the mind jump around. Most meditation can fall into that broad category, which we can call concentration or concentrating on a meditation object. The second broad category is of viewing the nature of the mind. So viewing the mind as it attaches to objects, as it engages into suffering, as it lets go. And viewing the nature of the mind can arouse wisdom as to who and what you are and how you operate. So that pretty much sums up, I think, all of the different meditation systems.
Wow, that was an excellent summary. So I have some experience, not all that much, but I started initially doing some Soto Zen school meditation that involved counting of the breath. But then later, after I moved to Thailand and I got interested in Theravada Buddhism, I did go on a retreat and I did learn some more insight meditation, or in the West, it seems to be just labeled generically mindfulness. So just to clarify for our listeners, you said that Buddhist meditation, or at least Theravada Buddhist meditation, involves focusing on some object such as the breath. So the meditator is not praying in the Western sense. They're not, at least when they're meditating, they're not asking for help or intervention by the Buddha or by gods or anything like that. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, but that's not to say there aren't lots of requests for intervention by people. If you go around Thailand, you find that certain temples are very well known for asking for certain things. So my temple here is quite a prominent, wealthy, well-known temple. So people come here and ask for their business to be successful. There are other temples where you go to get pregnant, not by the monks, but by praying for to the local god or goddess. And some temples are good for releasing fish or animals. So there's plenty of asking for things, but that's not meditation, no.
Okay, so it's not, so meditation and prayer are something completely separate. And then the other thing I wanted to, I noticed in my brief exposure to Zen.
Can I interrupt you there?
Sure.
Let me just interrupt you there. Prayer in terms of the meditation traditions in Christianity and Hinduism can definitely be considered to be meditation. For example, there's a kind of prayer that is called awareness of God, or being in the presence of God, which is where the mind stops still completely and just opens up to the divine. That we would definitely call a kind of meditation. So I think the mystic traditions do have genuine meditation in Hinduism, in Sufi, and in Christianity.
Right. It seems that I know that some Christian monks chant, of course. We're all familiar with Gregorian chant, and that does seem kind of meditative. The repetition, it does seem meditative.
Chanting is definitely part of it. In Thai, it's called Suat Mon, but the word Mon, actually, the way they write the Pali is the word mantra, but it comes out as Mon if you write it in Thai Pali script. So definitely to make a recitation is a form of meditation because you're concentrating on that recitation. And we do a lot of that in Thailand too. Tend to be quite short and simple mantras or repetitions like Buddho, Buddho with the in and out breath, or Sama Arahang, something like that.
Well, I have I don't know if this would come under the category of a technique question or maybe even a philosophy question. But I noticed back in the day when I was trying to sit kind of Zen style, there was a counting of the breath, which is not common in at least that's not what I was taught in Theravada meditation. But there also was this emphasis on blanking the mind or emptying the mind. And when I went on my first retreat here in Thailand, the instructor kind of specifically said, you can't blank your mind, and you shouldn't be trying, quote unquote, trying to empty your mind. It's more about watching your thoughts, watching your breath, being aware. But I remember specifically getting this instruction that you can't intentionally empty your mind. What do you think about those different directions?
Where did you go and who was teaching you this?
It's that famous Burmese monk that has the free retreats that I should know this.
Okay, Goenka.
Goenka, yes. It was a Goenka thing.
Okay. Yeah, Goenka is a very specific meditation method, and I wouldn't say it's representative of Theravada Buddhism. It fits within Theravada for sure and is a genuine approach, but it is a highly specific and almost cult-like approach. And they're very rigid with the meditation practice, counting the breaths and then sweeping the attention from the top of the head to the tips of the toes. So that body sweeping is a very specific form of meditation. And that is an object. If you are counting the breath or if you are sweeping your attention through the body, that is placing your mind upon a meditation object. And that's what most, certainly beginning meditation systems are about. What they would have been pointing to in Zen, you said blanking the mind. It's tricky because if you think of the blank mind, or if you think of something that blanks the mind, you're still just putting your mind onto a meditation object. As one like attains to Zen or attains to the deeper meditation, the mind simply stops attaching to any object. Then it starts to become very bright, self-radiant and aware, but there's no object on which you are focused. And that is difficult to teach because whatever you say about it, the person will try to create that in the mind as a focus of perception. And it's something that arises when you stop perceiving things. So that kind of meditation exists also in Zen, Theravada, Christianity, but it's going to be poorly expressed or expressed in unfamiliar terms. So, yeah, that's why there was a dichotomy between what you were doing in Zen. If you are trying to create that sense of mind, then your Goenka teacher was right, that's just another object. However, that is what we're aiming towards, stepping outside of the process of perceiving objects altogether.
I'm going to back away a little bit, and I do want to come back to this question of technique. But as you know, obviously meditation, at least in quotes, has become popular around the world in a lot of different contexts, especially mindfulness. I just want to know, what's your general take on just popular meditation? Do you see it as a step in the right direction, or do you see it as something bad because it's too watered down? What is your take as a Buddhist monk when you see, corporations doing mindfulness sessions? I'm just kind of curious. Is it at least something? Is it worth something? Even if it's
worth
not
a heck of a lot.
Religious? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great way to start this process of turning the attention around, turning the attention into your own processes, starting to take responsibility for your feelings and emotions and the way that you behave in the world, rather than outsourcing your emotions to the people around you. So it gives a tremendous sense of self-control, but a control not in a tight, egotistical sense, but you become less afraid of feeling bad if you've examined yourself feeling bad. So if people insult you or attack you, something like that. I was watching a documentary on some children in the school, and there was a girl there. She was quite fat, and the students had called her fat and a few other names, and she was in tears, and the response of the school was to stop the other students from calling her something she didn't like. But a mindfulness approach would say you need to look at your own response to things. How bad does it feel? Where does it feel bad? What happens if you just let it feel bad? What if you are just mindful? Then you start to gain an empowerment. You're no longer afraid of your emotions and feelings being yanked around. So in this sense, I think mindfulness is great. The more people that hear about it and practice it, the better. I have to say, I did do some things with a business group, and I was a little skeptical at first. Their remit to me was, we're not interested in religious bump. We're not interested in messing around. We're very rich, wealthy people, and we want to get straight to the heart of the matter. We're intelligent, so we want to know what it is, how you do it, and what we should expect from it, and we want the best possible way to do that. And I was skeptical, thinking, you want the fastest, sharpest way to get to high mindfulness, and you don't mind paying for it, so you can do what? Get back to work.
Right.
So when I went there, however, what I found was that they actually really knew mindfulness. A lot of them had done quite a lot of meditation through yoga or through meditation retreats or through apps. And they actually really knew what they were talking about and what they were doing and how to experience it. So one of the things that we did, exercises we did, suggested by one of the participants who had actually invited me in the first place, was mindful eating. So this is a business group, and we all met for lunch. And a big part of the reason for this is networking between them. And then they invite an expert to come and talk on archaeology or writing books or something. And I was their expert for the day. And it was suggested to me that if I tell them, eat your entire meal silently and watch what happens, that they will do it. I thought there was no chance. I honestly thought this was a dumb idea. They'd specifically come to network and talk. Anyway, I took the suggestion, and they all ate total silence. You'd never get monks doing that. And then afterwards we asked them for their feedback, and they had all the right feedback. They were saying all the right things that occur when you apply mindfulness to something like eating. So I was really impressed that this is great. I think people have really got a handle on it and are practicing it.
It's good to hear.
School
now,
kids
would you
have done
say in one of my meditation books that I read years ago, the author was trying to answer this question: is meditation really for everyone? And I thought the answer was interesting. Basically, the answer was yes, in the kind of the same way that physical exercise is actually for everyone, in the sense that it is healthy for everyone, I guess, unless maybe you're injured. But, exercise in general, it's just healthy. It's not always easy to do or get yourself into consistent habit. Do you think of meditation as something like this? Like it's just a healthy thing for everyone. And do you really think everyone should try it or everyone should do it? Yeah,
I would change the terminology a little. I would say meditation is for anyone.
Anyone.
So
okay.
Anyone who would like to do it, who would like to engage in it and try it out, then sure, there's no reason why you wouldn't do that. It might not be for everyone, in terms of a lot of people just won't like it, won't enjoy it, won't be drawn to it. So it's definitely not for everyone, but anyone who would like to, I think the door is open.
Interesting. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your own life as a monk. People obviously associate meditation with monks, but I've had enough interaction with monks and gone to different talks to know that monks have their own specialties, and not all monks meditate the same amount. And I was curious how that works at your temple or in your sangha. Are there certain monks that just become known as the meditation guys, or are there mandatory meditation sessions? I really don't know anything about how it works.
Yeah, it depends on the temple that you're at, and it depends on the person. Some people are natural born meditators, but usually they don't know very much about meditation because their attainments come so easily. Other people, like myself, are people that have to really work on it. Compare it to music. Some people can play the piano at 6 years old to concert pianist level. Other people might start to learn the violin at age 40, so they'll never be a great player. So it depends on your application. Now, all monks will have done meditation retreats, but not all will be necessarily a meditator. Some are builders, some are teachers, some are abbots, some are workers. So it really depends on the individual, what it is that they like to do. Thai temples or Thai Buddhism is quite a broad church in that sense, that monasteries are not just for people striving for enlightenment, but they're really for people who enjoy the life, enjoy the renunciation life, who find themselves in a good role in the temple. So not necessarily a meditator. It's only Westerners that think Buddhism is all about meditation.
Right. Well, actually, that was actually related to my next question, but I just want to have one follow-up. So in your community, in your sangha or among the monks, you guys just learn about who are the good meditation teachers. So it's just part of your culture that this temple is known for meditation, so you should go there if that's what you want, or this monk in particular is a good teacher. It's just kind of by reputation. Is that how it works?
Pretty much. That's the way it goes. But often, remember, you will gravitate to certain people and certain teachings. It's quite funny because I live in Wat Phra Pandit in Bangkok. But a number of years ago, 20 years ago, I met a Thai monk. He was doing some teaching and I joined the session. And he said, "Oh, I'm so happy there's a foreigner become a monk. That's wonderful. And we're so glad to receive foreigners to come and learn our beautiful tradition." He said, "What temple are you at?" I said, "I'm from Wat Phra Pandit." He went, Oh, well, never mind.
Oh, geez.
So there's quite a lot of that people follow their own teacher, and especially the more junior people, they will tend to attach to their teacher. This is the right teaching, the right place, and people in the other places, they've got it wrong, they misunderstand, etc. But once you've been around for a while, then that tends to fade away. So the more senior you get,
right,
the less you come across that kind of attitude.
You care about. Yeah, for sure. You mentioned before that a lot of Westerners think that Buddhism is all about meditation. And I have to confess, I used to be that guy. When I first moved to Thailand 23 years ago, I really thought the meditation would be extremely popular among Thai people because I knew it was a Buddhist country, 95%, 97%. And I was just surprised to find out that most of my Thai friends didn't meditate or didn't do it often, although they knew about it. So what is the exact role? So, I mean, obviously you can be a Buddhist without meditating, but is there pressure or what? How would you explain the relationship?
There is a dichotomy of roles, which in Christianity is clearly delineated between people who are engaged in society and people who retreat from society and engage in the mystic union with God. So in the first case, you would be a father or parishioner or vicar or something like that. And your role is to be engaged in the community. And the meditators in Christianity would withdraw to a monastery, and you'd very rarely ever get to see or hear about them. So Buddhism pretty much combines these two roles. So the monks are supposed to be, on the one hand, these mystics who sit and meditate and attain to different states of union or meditation, but also be heavily engaged in society. Most towns around Thailand, even today, the temple is still the center of the local community. So Buddhism straddles
the center of social rights,
these two roles, and I think it does so very well. But yeah, you have to take into consideration that it's not just for meditating. It's funny because the Buddha, as he laid Buddhism out, that was purely for the mystics, for the meditators who want to attain to this thing that he was teaching. So the way Buddhism has developed into a community religion is going far past its original remit, but has done so quite well, I think.
Right. So technically to become a Buddhist, it simply requires accepting the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the three jewels. And this, if you accept this as in, now do you think a ritual is required, like a type of baptism, or does it really just involve a person committing themselves to these three things, and then you become a Buddhist? Is there a line?
There's not a website that you should subscribe to and pay your fee, and you get your badge and your hat, and you say, right now, like a gender identity that you can.
Right. I'm a Buddhist now.
So you just no, there isn't. One can make a ceremony where you say, I go to the Buddha for refuge, to the Dhamma for refuge, to the Sangha for refuge. But quite what that means is open to interpretation too. So I think it's something that you kind of just drift into, or you just assume that you are. And I don't think there's really a qualification. Some Westerners, they come here, they say, well, these Thais, they drink alcohol, they're not real Buddhists. Or they are just praying for things, they're not real Buddhists. And I've seen this a lot of the time with Westerners coming here, and they learn one little thing about Buddhism and then look down on everybody else for not knowing about it. I'll tell you a stupid story about this. There was a man who learned from somewhere that the reason why many Buddha images, the earlobes are very long, he said it's because the Buddha used to be a prince and the weight of his earrings made his ears very long. And he took great pleasure in going around and asking everybody, do you think you're a Buddhist? Well, tell me why the Buddha's earlobes are very long. And then they can't answer. And he's like,
oh, wow.
You're not a Buddhist. So this kind of
it's horrible.
attitude I've seen a lot with Westerners. They learn one or two small things about Buddhism and then use it as a stick to beat everyone with and show their superiority. So don't fall into that trap.
Yeah, that is pretty horrible. Okay, I want to ask a question about when you kind of define meditation in the purest sense. You clearly gave a kind of spiritual definition, some type of union with God or union with the Buddha, something like that. But most people in the West are practicing entirely secularly without a religious purpose. Is that valid? I mean, I know you're going to say it's good that they're meditating, but if they're just meditating to relax or to achieve inner peace, is that a step on the way, or is that the wrong path? I'm curious about this difference between something spiritual, quote unquote, versus something that's psychological. Are they different, or are they the same thing?
Yeah, there is a stage-by-stage thing, and some people may well get interested for different reasons. They've lost somebody and they're feeling grief, or they have seen... I know one man, he's a meditation teacher for 50 years, and he had a daughter, and she knew that he did meditation, and she listened to him once or twice when she was around, but had no interest at all. And he didn't push her into it. And then one day on his retreat was a young, like 16 or 17-year-old girl who was really pretty, really nice looking and nicely dressed. And his daughter, who was about 13 or 14, really looked up to this girl. And so she started meditating and joined the retreat just because she was impressed by this girl. So, whatever...
She had a role model, right?
Whatever reasons you want to get into it. I was just really drawn to it from a very early age. And I remember seeing a meditator, somebody meditating in front of their house while I was driving with my father in the van. We were delivering some sweets. And I asked my father, what's this guy doing? And my father said, he's wasting his time. Now, I remember
and that interested you. That interested you.
I remember very clearly at that time, I was like, well, actually, I want to know what this guy is doing. So it depends, whatever reasons people get involved in it. But I should say that for Buddhist meditation, this is a path of enlightenment, of supreme, super mundane, completely other form of consciousness, if you like, that is completely above, beyond, or outside of anything that is normally experienced. And that's why I like the term union with God. That's obviously not a Buddhist phrase.
Right.
But in Hinduism, you might use something like that.
But okay. But if you're meditating, let's say I'm going through a tough time in my life. Maybe I'm depressed or moody. I feel like I'm at war with myself, and I want mental peace. I just want to feel more centered. I want to be able to relax. I just want to calm down and have mental peace. And I pursue meditation just with that goal. This is valid. You wouldn't tell that person, hey, you're missing something. You're not seeking union with God. I'm guessing you would not say that. You would say this is valid to do it for psychological reasons, or
right. But I would
correct?
Try and smuggle in the idea of an ultimate attainment, because that's really what it's about. And in my own meditation experience, I was taught for a long way the wrong way. So my teachers were saying, just allow things to be in the mind, observe it, watch it, don't try and concentrate. And this was actually the wrong teaching. And I'm rather annoyed that I was led the wrong way for so long. So I will always personally try to open people's minds to the fact that meditation is entering into a deep mystery. This is why they were called mystics. That is completely other
Sure.
And so I will always try to let people know that. But step by step, you do
that there's a kind of an ultimate, like let them know there is a higher level. There's an ultimate goal.
Right. And also, I'm not sure that that meditation is the best way to calm down or make peace in the mind. I wonder, I probably exercise or badminton might be a better way. If you're feeling stress at work or something, then, badminton is a terrific way to forget about everything, get into the body. And I have seen this with people who are grieving badly and suffering badly, and then they sit and meditate and go completely off the rails because their mind is so uncomfortable and such a poor place to be that there are times I wouldn't.
Well, Westerners do often think of it as a form of therapy, but that's not really what it is. I mean, would you agree with that? I mean, sometimes Westerners go to meditation thinking that it is therapy.
Yeah, and I don't think it is therapy. It's more of a lifelong learning. Yeah, that's meditation. But Buddhism, as a wider subject, is also about keeping precepts, about changing your behavior, changing your interaction with other people, practicing loving kindness. And so lifestyle Buddhism is a lot more than meditation, and is, again, quite a beautiful thing.
I wanted to ask you, and this is just, again, my curiosity. I know you have a degree in psychology and you understand how science works. And of course, in the last 20 or 30 years, there's been a lot of proper scientific study of meditation, trying to figure out what's going on in a meditator's mind. And I know it's a complex topic, but in general, as far as I can tell, the science does support that something different and special is happening in the mind of people who are meditating. They're not sleeping, they're not daydreaming. Do you care about this science at all? Like, is it something that matters that much to you, or are you just hear yourself on a religious path, or do you stay up to date on, there's a new study on, and here's what's going on, the theta waves are doing this? Is that something that matters to you, that like the science of the brain and what's happening?
I have seen some of this. Mindfulness-based stress reduction is a very well-known one. Some of the experiments with the Dalai Lama's monks of putting meditators into fMRI scanners. I haven't followed it closely because, to me, it's a self-evident path. And I'm not doing it because I can prove something externally. It's internally self-evident. So it's not something that I feel that I need in any way.
So in general, you would suggest people focusing on their own practice and how it makes them feel, whether or not some study validates or not, is not the important thing.
It is. But a lot of these studies do validate meditation. You can test for spiritual well-being in various ways. You can test things like the grieving process or healing process in various ways. Meditation has definitely been shown to work.
So Ajahn, imagine you're approached by a young man or young woman and they say, Ajahn, I don't really know anything about meditation. I've never done it before, but I want to start. What should I do? I'm sure you've had this question asked. What is your advice to a newbie, maybe Mr. Greg himself? He defines himself as a he's a meditation newbie, so he wants to start meditating. What should he do? The best thing to do is to find a local group and hopefully some people that you like or can relate to, and then just get started. Meditation is something that you learn by doing it, not by learning about it. So it's a bit like tennis. You can't study tennis. You just have to get out on a tennis court and start playing. Sure. And then a teacher can suggest to you different ways to, the right end to hold the racket and where to place your feet. So, yeah, really, you just have to. So you recommend live. So you don't recommend like reading a book or maybe watching a YouTube video. It's better to get a live in-person instruction with a supportive community?
I do think so, but I've met people who've had big success with like apps like Headspace. I've met people who have learned purely off YouTube. So I wouldn't discount those methods, but generally speaking, it's just like yoga. You really need to get out to a group. It makes it more interesting, and you can meet people and talk about things, and it's much better to do it that way, I think, than to do by yourself.
So Ajahn, I know that when people start getting more serious about meditation, they often decide to go on retreats. How do you look at retreats? Do you look at retreats as a beginner thing or more intermediate? Would you recommend a raw beginner to just start out on a retreat?
Sure, why not? I did that myself, so I think that's a good way in. Retreats are fun. They're a good way to get started. It does depend on the teacher and the teaching. I would definitely recommend people try several different retreats and keep in mind that you might not like one teacher or one teaching, but somebody else might relate to you a lot better. So, yeah, retreats are a great way to both get started and further your practice.
I'm guessing for a beginner, probably a shorter. I've noticed that there's quite a few kind of weekend retreats, kind of a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. And I personally didn't start that way. I started through martial arts and then yoga practice. But it seems like a short retreat like that would be better. I'm not sure it would be a good idea to jump into, let's say, a 10-day retreat at first, but maybe I guess some people do that.
You big wuss. Get a 10-day retreat. No, really, I think, because it takes a few days to get into it. So I think 10 days is a very good starting point.
Interesting. That's interesting. I mean, in my case, I did do a 10-day retreat, but I'd already been, sitting in yoga class and had done pranayama stuff, and I had gone through like a Soto Zen phase. So I was still a beginner. Okay, Ajahn, I want to thank you for doing this show. I think we left some threads hanging out there, in particular retreats. So let's save that for a later show. But thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Okay, it was a good chat. Thanks.
Man, I really enjoyed that. He is a very good explainer, a good teacher, as you know, and he's got a good sense of humor.
Yeah, I love how he sort of approaches this from like he can really see the outsider's viewpoint of this, and he explains things in like, I think a lot of Westerners, we have a lot of suppositions and stereotypes and assumptions about Buddhism and meditation, and he really sort of comes at it from a different angle and makes you see things totally differently. So it's really, really interesting to hear him talk about it. Every time he mentions meditation, I always think like, maybe I should try it. Maybe I should give it a whirl. But man,
well, now you got more info, man.
I guess so. I'm really worried that as soon as I get 30 seconds into it, I'll be like, what if I'm missing an email? Someone sent me a text or something.
Well, that is the problem, kind of as we talked about this modern world of distractions and just having in a way, to me, it kind of takes some confidence to cut yourself off from it.
Yeah.
Because man, I'm addicted to my phone. I'm addicted to YouTube. YouTube. It's funny when younger people talk about TikTok, because I'm still living in YouTube land. Obviously I still use Twitter and everything, but YouTube for me is my original addiction, and that's my go-to. And it's endlessly distracting because there's so much stuff on YouTube. You and I have talked about our various YouTube channels we follow, and they're endless.
I'll tell you what, you put down the YouTube and I'll put down the PS5 controller. We'll both sacrifice our most beloved to get into it.
Well, I'm a fan, as I mentioned in the interview, I'm a fan. I've done some, but I should be doing a lot more. So thank you to Phra Pandit for that excellent kind of introduction to meditation.
Most def, and he will be back again in the not too distant future to talk about more meditation and other cool Buddhist stuff.
For sure.
All right. Well, speaking about things in Thailand and Thai culture, we ask our listeners to send us a voicemail and using the little microphone button on our website if they have something to say. And this week we heard from our pal Leo, who commented on a recent show we did on the importance of the why, which also ties in nicely to the topic of this week's episode, as you'll see. So here's a message that Leo sent us.
Hey guys, it's Leo. Back in the day, I went to your wonderful meetup group and we painted together. Anyway, I just loved this last episode. It was really great. I've always wondered about why I don't get called P or why I'm not wide, and it really put things into perspective for me. So thank you. I'm currently actually in Koh Samui, and I'm a general manager for a fitness wellness retreat, and it's really fascinating, trying to implement this beautiful part of Thai culture. And so what we've done is we actually just had a staff meeting yesterday, and everybody we talked about what the why means and why it's so important and why it's so beautiful, and that foreigners coming to Thailand for the first time, this is the first thing that they see. And so, we've implemented it throughout, and they've really embraced it. And we why each other, we show respect to each other. And it's really quite lovely. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. I love you guys so much. You've taught me so much about Thailand and Bangkok. So this was a really great episode. So thank you guys.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. In a way, if you really think about it, the why is kind of the most forward part of Thai culture. It's just, as soon as you get off the plane, or even when you get on the plane, if you're flying Thai Airways, it's like you're immediately faced with this ritual practice that is different from Westerners. So putting it first in your kind of, hey, here's a lesson on Thai culture, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's great. And actually, the way I was thinking about it is, once you get off the plane in Thailand, whether it's in Bangkok or Samui, you got to fight through you're like fighting through the army of rip-off taxi touts and people trying to sell you tours and junk and tchotchkes and stuff like that. So that's kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But then they get to Leo, and he's like, all right, here's what Thailand's really all about. So I think it's like a nice, sniffing coffee beans refresher. It sort of resets people's experiences and expectations about Thailand. So I think it's doing good work.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the voicemail, Leo. And I don't know if you remember, Ed, but Leo, last time we saw him, he was in Bangkok. He was drinking wine and painting pictures with us at one of our previous meetups. So
yes, I remember. Yeah. Good times.
Hopefully he'll be back again soon and we can hang out. So thanks, Leo.
A final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping us in our never-ending quest for cool content. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We are Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Yeah, baby. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can send us a voicemail through our website that we'll feature on the show. I dump Twitter, but you can find me on Mastodon at bkkgreg at poorlyrendered.com, although now you might find me on Blue Sky and maybe Threads. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, thanks for listening, everyone, and we will see you back here next week. I'm your color, what's it? Your color man?
That's right. That's right.
What is it?
Yeah, you're the color commentator. That's
color
right.
Commentator. Yeah. Is that a sports thing?
Yeah. Like usually sports announcers have different specific roles. Like basically you have the play-by-play guy who's handling the live thing, like as it's happening, so-and-so passes to so-and-so, whatever. And then the color guy is adding information to that, like, oh, this will be his third touchdown of the year. Like he's the data guy or the history guy. He's like the story guy.
Oh, okay.
Is the color guy. Like he's the guy who puts stuff into context.
All right.
He's commenting on what the other guy is doing.
I remember years ago they hired Dennis Miller to be the color guy on some football thing, and he was like way too smart for people. So I remember this one time they were saying, like, some guy was running down the football field and he was like, it's Romulus and Remus, they're going after him, and he was pulling out like
that's right
names from ancient literature that no one knew what the hell he was talking about.
I remember that. It's like, no, you're too educated.
Yeah, all right. Well, anytime anyone sees some dirty joke color guys, I'm there. Okay.